I'd have been working right alongside and maybe a little bit below Joe Kent. And I had the opportunity to meet him in the process of getting ready for that job before I was supposed to start. And I thought he was a fantastic guy. And I've often wondered how difficult it was for him to do this job, especially with the Venezuela thing was bad enough. But then, now with this war here, and I wondered how both he and Tulsi could continue on with this job, knowing how they felt, knowing what they thought behind the scenes and what their personal objectives were and what their philosophy was and what their understanding of the world was. I just couldn't imagine having to work under those conditions. And now we see that Joe was not able to do that in good conscience. He could not continue on. And listen, this is a guy who has got combat experience, has lost his own wife in combat as well. More on that in just a second. But listen, let's get right into the substance here, folks, because this letter here is absolutely political dynamite. This is going to have ramifications that are going to ripple across the country here. It's going to ripple all the way into the White House. And just by the way, we'll just put this out there right away. You can count on the fact that President Trump will be demonizing this guy probably within hours. I haven't looked at his Truth Social yet. We'll see if he's put anything out on it. But you can count on it because that's what he does. He demonizes anyone who says anything unflattering to him. And believe me, folks, this is about as unflattering as it gets. It is truthful, but it's really unflattering. Let's take a look at this. This is the actual letter that he signed. And he says, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as the director of National Counter-Terrorism Center effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Let that sink in for a second, folks, because here is the number 2 guy in the office of the Director of National Intelligence, somebody who loves this country and has worked hard for it, is saying this, what we've been telling you since before this thing ever started. It's been self-evident, but now here we have an official at the highest levels confirming it, who was working in the intelligence directorate itself. This guy knows what he's talking about, and this will not be easy to brush aside and say, oh, well, he was some liberal or whatever, somebody is the president. No. In fact, he goes on to say that, in the very next part there, I support the values and the foreign policies that you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, and 2024, which you enacted in your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that the wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth of our prosperity of our nation. And he goes on to talk about some of the things that he liked. But then we get into the real political dynamite. This is it right here, folks. Let this sink in too. Early in this administration, he writes, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States, that you should strike now. There was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie, and is the same tactics the Israelis used to draw us into disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again. And then he kind of bolsters his credibility. And folks, this is unimpeachable. You may not like, if you're a President Trump fan, you may not like the embarrassment that this causes. Don't care, because this right here is the God's awful truth. It is the gospel. It is reality. And he writes, as a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel. He's even going back to the 2003 war. We've always blamed it on President Bush. But he's saying here, and again, this guy has his background is also in other intelligence in the past, and obviously his position was here. This guy knows what he's talking about. He lived it, and he has access to everything. And he says that it was manufactured by Israel, the 2003 Iraq war. And now he says that's what cost his own wife. And he said, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people, nor justifies the cost of an American lives. And then he adds, I pray that you will reflect upon what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further into decline and chaos. You hold the cards. It was an honor to serve your administration and our great nation. Joe Kent. Folks, that is just unbelievable here.